Hi, my name is Dave Elkington. I'm the founder and chairman of Inside Sales, and I'm also on the board of Chat Funnels, the host of today's event. Excited to open up the event today, and frankly, crazy excited to introduce Scott Rhodes, who is one of the leading influencers and definers of an emerging space. In fact, it's a space that, frankly, Scott and some of his team at BCG, Boston Consulting Group, helped define. So we have him kicking off the event with me today, really to talk about a change in the market that I think is going to revolutionize the way people think about demand gen, the way they think about sales, the way they think about digital marketing. And we're going to get into it. I think the conversation will be pretty fascinating. I think we've got some controversial things that we're going to maybe work our way through. But the premise behind the whole thing is this concept of shifting toward a more personalized, account-based engagement. And some people say, well, ABM's been around for years. How is that different? And if you think at a high level, you've got kind of account-based selling. You've got a Miller Hyman, more of a complex selling approach on one side. You have ABM on another side. But I think what Scott's going to share is that in both cases, and in fact, I would say in our overall engagement with our customers, our prospects, it's actually pretty poor. And we're treating people transactionally. We're not treating them the way, frankly, the golden rule, the way we'd want to be treated. But before we get into that, I want to introduce Scott a little bit. Scott is, as I mentioned, he's an executive at Boston Consulting Group, one of the premier strategy consulting firms in the country, in the world, maybe the galaxy. I think it's one of them in the galaxy. Scott's nodding, so I think I've been approved.
I think they would. There's a handful of folks here who agree.
I would agree with that. Excellent. But Scott, from Texas originally. Scott has really been a pioneer in this digital marketing space. So just a little bit of background. Again, from Texas, married, has 3 kids. One of the things he shared with me is he's got one in basically elementary school or kindergarten, junior high, and high school. So he's super outnumbered. So if he stumbles a little bit, give him some cut him some slack. He's outnumbered in every level at home. But he's an outdoorsman. He runs. He's an avid runner. He's a mountain biker. Again, he and his wife spend time in the outdoors. But equally important to this conversation, Scott spent time really from kind of the onset, the beginning of digital marketing, really helping build what digital marketing is today. So early on, like 1997, essentially at the advent of, I'd say, modern internet, Scott helped found an agency when he was in school. And they one of their first, they were making websites like that early. They even had Pier 1 walk in their doors as one of their first clients to make a website. This is like 1997, and literally walk in their doors. Like there wasn't like an online way to engage with them. And so like early foundational stuff around digital marketing. Then very quickly he joined McCann and was leading their digital marketing before McCann really had a digital marketing practice or presence. So this is like when McCann was mostly traditional marketing, physical marketing. Scott really helped transition McCann, and again, McCann being one of the leaders in marketing, Scott's influence really helped lead them into a digital marketing transformation, where he did things where helped rebrand one of the airlines after 9/11, helped really move Southwest into a digital airline experience. Really, there's some interesting, background around Nationwide. So Scott was very pivotal in helping some of the early Fortune 500, Fortune 100 really move into a digital space. He then also built Razorfish early on, their ECRM practice, led their partnership team, and then later, at a period in his career, helped with Hart Hanks and ran their digital. So basically, what you have is one of the formative leaders that helped build the digital practice of what's happening in marketing today. And really, and again, Scott, I appreciate you humoring me, letting me do this introduction, because you never want anyone to introduce you this way. But really, I think it's important for everybody watching, and I think Billy Bateman just shared this before me, but we have almost 4,000 people registered and participating today. So I want all of these people to understand the background you come, and it adds credibility to what you're saying, because I think what you're going to share is going to actually tell everybody they're kind of not doing a great job. They think they are, but they're kind of doing, in many cases, not a good job in how they're engaging. So Scott, with that introduction, thank you for being on with me today.
Well, thank you, Dave. That was probably one of the most humbling and kindest intros I think I have ever had, and will probably ever have looking forward. So you set the bar high. I appreciate it very much. And you know what? You're right. It's one of those things that, I think the reason why technology thrives, reason why agencies and consultants thrive, is because we help our clients. We help our clients kind of learn from the scars of our clients in the past, and help them solve their problems. And so it's not that everybody's doing it wrong. It's everyone. We all have a chance to kind of do things better, and learn from our competitors, and from the best practices. And it has been an honor throughout my career to work with some of the most amazing brands in the world, and help them really rethink their customers, how they go to market, and really kind of challenging status quo. So it's been an absolute fun ride, for sure.
And that's kind of what led to this topic. And there's an article that really, as Billy had asked me to come and speak and talk about this new trend in marketing, I immediately went to an article I had read that you're one of the co-authors of. We'll make available in the notes here. But the title of it is "Moving Beyond ABM to Account-Based Engagement." And this, as you and I spoke in preparation for today, you talked about how engaging with clients, you begin to see this trend. So what you just described, this unique position you have at being kind of at the headwaters of seeing, countless Fortune 100, companies, and consulting and helping advise, you're seeing these patterns. And I think these patterns are what you shared really led to this article. Tell me a little bit about the article and how it came about.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, marketing organizations over the time, we have been thrusted into this digital revolution, and throughout the years. And, I think leading into this, technology has been incredibly disruptive. And it's been a challenge for businesses to keep pace with that, and we can't have the same revolutions inside our organizations, and organizations have to evolve. They can't just absolutely revolt. And so that evolution and adaptation to technology takes time and is a journey. And I think one of the most recent journeys that we're really seeing is this lens of, that we saw was account-based marketing, and really the approach of really stepping back and thinking about our customers, and thinking about segmentation and aligning the marketing and sales organizations and those handoffs and those motions. And so, this conversation, as you said before, it had been ongoing. This wasn't a new topic. But one of the challenges, or one of the things that we saw as a kind of a misnomer, was really around this idea of putting the onus purely on marketing. This isn't a marketing problem. It wasn't a marketing challenge, and it's not a marketing solution. And so as we dug into it, what we really wanted to look at is the idea of how do you create alignment within an organization, and that alignment around revenue, and how do they break these habits of these vanity metrics, and silos within an organization of marketing, and then it's sales, and then it's customer support. That is all about a customer journey, and it's all about that customer experience across the board. And when done correctly, you align the business around revenue. And you align those organizations in that common direction and theme. And so, as we dug into it, we spoke with, I think, 34 roughly different executives, 21 different companies across every industry. And the theme that really came out of this was this idea of account-based engagement, because it is about customer engagement.
So let me put you for a second, because you said something super interesting. One of them was this solving the alignment between different departments. And there's a trend I've shared and when I've spoken more recently around this new title called a revenue title. So there's like directors of revenue, there's VPs of revenue. And I'm like, okay, well, what department is this? And it's ambiguous. Like a chief revenue officer can own marketing, can own sales, can own customer engagement and renewals, or can own a segment of it. And it actually seems like the tool set, again, I'm getting ahead of us a little bit, the tool set of the chief revenue officer or the VP of revenue is this idea of ABE. So what is ABM and what is ABE? Like, what's the difference between these two? First, define ABM and define what ABE is and how you. I better not ask too many questions. Let's start there with the definition.
Yeah, absolutely. And one thing I'll come back to, I'll hit on is you're absolutely right. Is this new component about revenue, and one of the biggest things that we're working with clients today as well on is unifying marketing operations and sales operations into what we call RevOps, or revenue operations. And it's just another tier of how do you bring operational support and align it to within the organization around revenue. So your point spot on, and we work with clients all the time with that. So I think that when I look at account-based marketing, in its early forms, it was really this idea of a handshake between marketing and sales, right? It was how do we think and begin to break away from the idea of leads and think about accounts, and then how do I create alignment between the marketing and sales organization behind those accounts? Who are our best customers, right? Very simply. And how do I identify, target, and engage more customers that look like that, potential customers? So I think in its pure form in account-based marketing and early evolutions, it was that handshake between those two orgs. I think when we look at account-based engagement, we extend that.
Before you get into account-based engagement, just so people understand, like I'm at Zant, we've rebranded Inside Sales to Zant. We did it, and it actually kind of worked, right? I mean, so what we did, and anyone who runs a sales team, and we have lots of sales leaders on this event or at this event, they basically have target names, right? So they say, these are my top 50, my top 100, and they've got all kinds of names for these different lists. And then marketing says, great, thank you, I'll go focus. And they do high impact mailers, they do, retargeting to those lists. So it was literally a simple, like, okay, great, I got your list, I will focus my marketing instead of like, almost like a consumer spray and pray approach, right? It's like, I'm just going to market, I'm going to generate MQLs until the list is full, and then I won. So I think that was ABM, or that is ABM, isn't it?
Yeah, no, and I think you hit on two things. Is one, there's a qualitative feedback component of asking sales who are our best customers. There's also a data analysis of it as well. And I think that's one of the evolutions over time is the more prevalent, or let's rewind that. I think one of the things is the more the data is being more prevalent in modeling and leveraging data modeling, we can balance that qualitative of not just what our best customers, who they are from sales, but then let's go back from a marketing perspective, and marketing tends to own the data and the marketing and the analytics. Marketing can come in and say, look, based off of our data, we can not only just say who do our best customers look like, but let's look at it from an LTV perspective. Let's look at it at a churn. Let's look at share of wallet. Let's look at, overall, who are our fiscally best customers over time. Sometimes sales will give you a a very more subjective outlook on, what great customers look like. It's a good brand or things like that. So it's really kind of marrying those two disciplines together, both the qualitative kind of feedback from sales, as well as that quantitative analysis into the data to deep dive to nail down what our best customers truly look like, and then begin to plot them on a decile chart so I can see natural breaks into that. The beautiful thing about that is that gives us a true fit model to begin to lay against customers as they come into the pipeline. So we know who to target, what pool to fish in. Then as they come on and we begin to engage and we can quickly move someone from unknown to known and identify those customers, I have a quantitative model to define, is this a good fit? Do they fit? If they fit, are they a strategic account or more of a scaled account?
Yeah. Yep. So how does that differ then from what you found in this gap needed for ABE? Like, where does ABE go from where ABM kind of leaves off?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think ABE, I think on the highest level, it moves beyond just marketing and sales, and we look at it in customer service as well. How do we look at that engagement across the full life cycle? And how do we align the entire organization is one piece. The next aspect about that is then within that, how do I align my go-to-market motions, my sales motions, so that way we have the right level of engagement and the right scale based on that customer kind of segment or category. So tier one, it helps you kind of better understand that these are our most valuable high revenue strategic accounts. These are going to be strategically sales led. Marketing is there to support that. And really at that point, marketing across the board, our measurement is sales success, right? Hold us accountable to sales conversion numbers, sales velocity metrics. How quickly can I move it through? And so that allows you to create that alignment of those marketing and sales motions at each tier of those account segments. And we can increase personalization, as we move higher. We can then move to more automation as we move down into our value chain. And again, once marketing and sales can agree on those segments, that makes it a lot easier for us to align those motions.
So I love one of the things you say in the article where the quote is, B2B sellers must address the specific needs better than by personalizing the engagement and integrating these digital experiences with online communications. Tell me like a little bit about your thoughts behind that, because it triggered a lot of things that I think I feel need to happen, but are not. I mean, I feel a lot of our digital campaigns kind of run, and we have these, I've got customer experience managers or customer support people that are not necessarily speaking the same language. So everyone's in these silos doing stuff, but what it seems like you guys are alluding or describing something in a much more, harmonic way. Like, tell me what you guys were thinking when you described this.
So I think when you look at that is, one, you're absolutely right in the context of personalization and how can I scale personalization, and delivering that very personalized but scaled motion. Personalization and can be expensive, right? And the more personalized that we, as marketing and sales teams, drive that and get that experience, the more cost it is. And so, when we look at this is, as you move into like a very one-to-one conversation, let's structure those strategic. And that's kind of how we defined account-based engagement. We put those three tiers of strategic ABM is really one-to-one kind of sales-led motions. Scaled ABE is really around kind of that one to few conversation. So with a lot of our clients, that tends to fall into more of a solution and industry level personalization. That gives my marketing team the ability to scale that degree of personalization across those accounts based on that fit model. And then we go into more of the addressable market. This is going to be really just your solution motion. And this is, I think, kind of where marketing has traditionally been, where you have a conversation around your solutions and how that enables customers. And so by aligning the marketing motions to that, it allows us to know what's the right level of personalization is applicable based off of that customer's lifetime value to the brand.
So let me pause you there, because I got to unpack what you just shared, because it's kind of, there's a lot and it's super valuable. When you first shared this, I had an initial reaction to say, well, okay, ABE works when you've got a really high price point. So if what you're selling is 100K or 60K or 500K, super doable. But on small target items, it's not. And I think that's a wrong, in fact, I know it's a wrong assumption. You've got a model you just described where you basically separate your accounts from strategic accounts. And those are like your top 10, according to your article. You have target accounts, hundreds up to maybe 1,000 or two, and then your remaining addressable market. And again, I'll see if we can flash this image that you guys have from your article up so people can see it. Like, where do you think about budget in each of these categories?
Yeah, it's a great question. So, and it really it does depend. And those strategic accounts, what you want to look at is it's a balance of kind of where we tend to talk to our clients is really around, and this is definitely more applicable to software, is that lifetime value over cost of customer acquired, or LTV over CAC. And if you know what that lifetime value is of those customers in those different tiers, you can begin to adjust your acquisition costs and accordingly and align those so you hit that kind of magic number right across each one of those segments. And that allows us to then kind of make sure that we're hitting the right return on our marketing investment overall. And it allows you to understand that not all those customers are the same. It's not just this marketing budget that we just put into acquisition, or marketing budget just put into the nurture and marketing automation team, right? We need to begin to kind of break those up across those tiers. And that gives us the ability to fine tune those costs and those marketing costs at across the funnel. So if we think about, one of the things that we look at is we build accelerators for our clients. And we think about it as there's kind of three core acceleration kind of areas. There's this acquisition accelerator, really kind of this idea, how do I identify, engage, and kind of and generate kind of hand raisers. Mm-hmm. Then we see, how do I move that from a prospect into a customer? So there's this conversion accelerator. And this is really around, how do I drive those high value engagements? How do I identify intent of those individuals? How do I score sales enablement, move them through that sales funnel? And then we look at extensions. How do we look at renewals, cross-sell, upsells, churn management? So if marketing is really sitting across that full journey, how do I align those marketing teams and budgets, not only by those segments, but how do I focus them into those accelerators of acquisition, conversion, and extension? And it really kind of brings together not only ABE, but really what we kind of look at as a three-legged stool. There's an ABE, which is our strategy. How do we think about those segments? Mm-hmm. Who falls within them? How do we think about the journey of those buying committees and how they fit within that? And then there's this idea of what we look at as demand centers. And and that's really, how does that work get done? These are the teams that are tactically connect the strategy and the execution together. And those demand center teams really function in those three areas of acquisition, conversion, and extension. And then there's the way that they work, the third leg of the stool, which is this idea of agile marketing. And so it's really kind of bringing these cross-functional teams together in pods, or kind of agile squads, however you want to look at it. And then they're really hyperly focused on test and learn, getting things out the door, focused on the metrics, the campaigns that are laddering up to those business outcomes. So when those three things come together, that's
okay.
where the fun stuff is.
I'm coming out of my skin over here. I'm getting the chills, and I got to make sure people like are following you here, because again, I have a lot of stuff I'm bringing from a previous conversation. So I want to make sure people get what you're sharing, because it's super actionable. There's a lot of academic information you're sharing, but if we unpack it, your three-legged stool is the strategy, which is really it's what we described, where you basically say, look, there's different segments. You can't treat customers all the same. You've got to look at the CAC to LTV. So just so some people may not know what those terms are. Your CAC is your customer acquisition cost. So what are you spending in sales and marketing, kind of a full sales and marketing expense on a unit basis for each of your customers? But you can't look at it holistically at your entire customer base. You've got to break it into those three categories you described. So that's the first thing people do. And then you can build a strategy to treat each of those three buckets very, very differently, because you have strategic accounts. Well, if your LTV, your long-term value of your customer, if it's a 10 or 20-year customer profile, they're going to be worth way more than a 2-year sort of like renewal. So you can spend appropriately or accordingly to the value of that customer.
Yeah.
So you got one bucket. I'm going to shift to your third bucket because I love it. And it's this idea of empowerment. Actually, you create almost like mini SEAL teams, if you will, that are empowered with the ability to make important decisions. In fact, I'm not going to sell, but I want you to talk a little bit about what you described in that third leg, which is the what's the name of it? It's an agile marketing.
Agile marketing, yeah, absolutely. So one of the things, I mean, I think everybody's heard of Agile, and everybody has that knee-jerk reaction of Scrum board, right? Or the word Scrum comes to mind. I think when we look at kind of Agile pods, we do this a lot with clients, where it allows us to create very high impact, quick sprints and motions, and it's very simply this idea of, if we're focused on this point in the funnel and we need to generate X, we align on what those goals and metrics are. What do we need to be kind of executing team? Do I need content? Do I need the strategist? Do I need the data person? Do I need an analytics and modeling? So bring the right people, the right decision makers together into this team to really focus on the goals, focus on the metrics, and then just ties together that idea of the strategy and tactics. How quickly can I bring strategy and execution together in that pod? So you're absolutely right. This is not just, it's a culture thing with a lot of our clients. It's an incredible shift in not only the way they work, the organization, the culture, embracing test and learn. But when it's done, when a lot of the times that what we work with our clients on is empowering them to do this. We step in, we show them the way how to do this, and show them how quickly we can unlock business value by operating in this way. And then we are able to step out and help them kind of manage the change and evolving. And then it's really around, how do I commercialize this, right? Because something like this can work great, but then the challenge is like, okay, how do I move this from this one segment? Say, I just wanted to do, I'm going to start this motion with one segment and one geo. How do I begin to scale this organizationally across the board? What's the commercial model look like? So I think that's, when we talk about ABE, one of the biggest things is with our clients is, how do I get started, right? And then how do I scale it over time? And I think that this is one of those kind of unlock that really kind of begins to tackle that. How do I create a focused sprint, execute it, and then think about, okay, now how do I scale this? How do I move this from this product into this product, or from this product in this geo to another geo? So again, several light bulbs went off here, but I'm going to just do a plug. If you've not engaged with BCG before,
look, Scott's not going to say it. It's probably not even appropriate for him, but I would say reach out to Scott and have his team, he and his team, put a proposal together to have you or to have them help deploy in a geo or in a product line or something like that. I am telling you, I think the results will be stunning. I think they'll surprise you. But just the real light bulb here was you've got to move fast. And my background is in computer science more than it is maybe I'd say strictly in marketing. Though I've been told I've got enough hot air to be in sales. So all of us salespeople, we can relate. Don't be haters. You know I'm right. So like the interesting thing is if you can create a specific objective, which is I believe your middle pillar of your model, where you say, hey, here's a product line, here's a team. You empower them with more of a sprint or you basically give them budget objectives and really let them run. Not unlike what we see in software development versus a waterfall, very monolithic. Hey, the CMO is going to make all the decisions. The CMO is going to say, look, we're going to do ABM or ABE over here. If you really create this as some action items, like people listening to this, even if they don't engage with BCG, go run your CAC to LTV model against your customers, number one. Number two, identify a product line, a geo, a segment, and go build a team that has the resources it needs, and then empower them and let them just test and repeat and like drive toward that objective. Like this, if you get nothing else from today, go try that. Like that alone, I believe will transform your marketing efforts and help you move into this ABE model. Tell me, Scott, a little bit about kind of there's a really the forcing function to align marketing, sales, and service. And you've got a model you describe in your article about kind of the roles. You have a marketing role, a sales role, and a service role. Give us an overview of each of these roles and how you force them using this premise of ABE actions to work together.
So you're hitting on, I think, probably one of the founding components, right, is that alignment. And within organizations, one of my colleagues, Matt Ward, has this great poster on behind his Zoom screen at home of Chewbacca and R2D2, and he always refers to R2D2 as kind of that is the sales guy, that can speak multiple languages, can talk about product and this and that. Yeah. Marketing is the Chewbacca. You can tell that he's from the sales team. Yep. Where it just yells in one language at sales, but they never communicate well together, right?
I'm going to use that. I've not heard that before, but I'm going to use that.
So he talks about like the one of the biggest things, or one of the challenges that we work with our clients around is that idea of how do I get everybody speaking the same language, right? How do I create that alignment? And I think we hit on it at the beginning of this conversation, is the idea of how do I do strategic planning across my organization? How do I do planning in conjunction with one another? How does sales, marketing, and CS come together and look at and do joint planning? Absolutely critical. How do I do planning around strategic business outcomes? So take one example, for instance, say you have a product line and we're going to do competitive displacement strategy. So we want to say, hey, we want to go in and say, we want to see a 10% lift from this competitor in a specific geo. Great. That's a business outcome that we can sit back and say, okay, now how does marketing support this? How does sales look at this? When we go to sales support and customer CS, how do we have those conversations? Is it a switching strategy that we're moving them from one product to another one? Are we doing a clean displacement on new logo? So each one of those are going to impact each one of those functions. So by creating that planning up front, I know that marketing can build the material and the context around a switching strategy from competitive product to ours. I know I can prep the sales team and build better sales enablement motions around what is the differentiation between that product and ours. What does the integration look like? The transfer and migration look like? CS and the customer support team, how do I onboard this? How do I manage that migration? Complete end-to-end alignment around that business outcome. But that kind of business outcome strategy up front can help guide everything from our targeting and how do we begin to identify and target those customers? What's that journey and the unique conversation with audience, cadence, channel, all is going to be unique to that. And then that we're able to better align and create that motion across the board. So really, like to your question around the marketing and sales CS, how do we bring these together? Aligning against those business outcomes, and doing the kind of sales account marketing planning in conjunction around those business outcomes allows us to create that alignment and then build the motions end to end. And that's going to drive, that's where we begin to see, your increase in visitors because we're targeting the right customers. We're going to see an increase in marketing proficiency and impact on sales pipeline because the content is very targeted to those motions. You'll see increased conversion rates. The sales cycle should decrease over time versus a very generic conversation, and so on. So,
and the results, again, if we can, we'll show the image. You've got some results where you share where it's pretty fascinating. You share more than 50% of ABE programs will fail initially. And as you look at these reasons, it's almost always an alignment issue. And it's not just cross-functional alignment, it's executive alignment. It's the wrong tools to support it. It's an alignment problem almost top to bottom, isn't it?
Yes, yeah, absolutely. Alignment is kind of, as we're all this married folk can say, communication, is critical and prevents a lot of fights. So, I think that absolutely, how do you create clear alignment across your organization? How do you create those lines of communication and feedback loops across the organization? One thing that we see too is making sure that your initial pilots are small enough. Let's not bite off too much in that first go. When we talk about our strategic accounts, absolutely, like less than 100. For your pilot, focus on 10 accounts. Nail that, and then say, okay, now what's my next 10 accounts? What's my next 10 accounts? How do I move this from a one-to-one conversation and scale it down into a more of a one-to-few conversation? So I think alignment, making sure that the pilots are focused and can be addressed by the team that's in place is critical. Having ownership, right? Making sure that there's executive buy-off. And that the team is in place that has proper ownership, proper support, absolutely critical. A lot of people get wrapped around the technology, right? And technology should be that kind of last component. Once you have kind of the right people in place, the right process in place, don't put technology as the barrier to a pilot.
I was talking to one of our clients, and what they shared is they deployed a pretty aggressive ABM model. And I said, this seems pretty amazing. What do the salespeople think about it? And he's like, well, they should like it. And I'm like, wait a minute, do they? And he's like, well, I don't know, but if they're dumb if they don't, because this is how they're going to hit their number. And I was like, bro,
yeah,
you missed it.
You completely missed it.
Yeah, like this, you just blew it. I mean, what are the platform? Okay, so again, there's the three legs of the stool you described. Once they get that in place, what are the 2 or 3 tools? And you don't even have to do it necessarily by name, but maybe by function. Like, what are the kind of tools that people should be thinking about?
Yeah, absolutely. I think one of the things that we look at is all of these things work in conjunction. I always say that you're as strong as your weakest link, right? And it starts with you look at customer intelligence, right? do I really understand my customer? And this can go down to segmentation, journey mapping, quant research. Do you really understand who your customers are, and have a deeper understanding of them? Do you have underlying data? What's your data look like? Is it siloed? Is it connected? Then we can look at tech and tools. Look at engagement, right? Do I have the right content in place to enable engagement? Analytics, measurement, key component, and make sure that we have the right measurement strategy in place, the right way to measure attribution and engagement. Eventually, you're going to look at modeling and data modeling and begin to look at lookalike models, fractional attribution, propensity scores, and propensity models. But all those things kind of come together. There's also culture. I apologize. Yeah, culture is a huge one, right? Is the organization aligned around this? So all those things kind of come together to really and have different stages of maturity. So you may be really mature in your tech stack, but have really bad customer understanding. Well, then your whole organization is going to only be able to function as at that weakest link.
Yeah.
So, so I think that's an important thing to kind of to look at. But when we look at the critical tech components, your data and data infrastructure, absolutely critical. It's what it's built on, right? And so I always look at and kind of, you have data, then you have engagement. Or intelligence usually sits, and you think about your intelligence layer on top of your data, your ability to kind of at least understand and pull some intelligence out of your data. The big guys have that around like Adobe Experience Manager and things like that, and so on and so forth. But so that intelligence layer then fuels your engagement layer. Your engagement layer will include kind of your core components, your CRM, your marketing automation, your chat, all of your channel kind of engagements, whether it's email, chat, web,
whatever.
Right. So all those kind of are going to be built off of that intelligence and fueled by data, and then that fuels your measurement layer.
Yep.
Right. So all that engagement is going to drive new data, behavioral data, that feedback. Right. So data, intelligence, engagement, measurement are kind of your four layers of the cake, if you will.
That makes sense. Well, okay, we only have another minute or two. What does it look like from a results perspective when it goes right? Like, and is BCG doing this? Like when you clients, like a lot of this, you kind of you optimize, you tweak, you test, and then it's almost like getting product market fit, but you get it in your operational fit. What does it look like?
Yeah, that's great. I mean, and it's I think you even mentioned before that we have kind of a chart that shows what are those value unlocks? What does that mean for companies? And it's across the board, right? Because again, it's that maturity. Every company is going to be in a different state of maturity. And so when you begin to do this, I think the question then becomes is like, where are those pilots structured? Are we going to structure our pilots first on the acquisition channel? Our acquisition looks great, so let's just fix our marketing sales handoff and start thinking about that conversion channel, extension motions. And as you plug that in there, I think across the board, the results are highly dependent upon where we are, what are the pilots that we're running, where are the pilots running, and what's our current state of maturity. But I think a lot of times what we see is, again, we can pull up the metrics across the board, but what we often see is 2 to 3 times less cost of of customer acquired. Moving backwards, we tend to see acceleration.
Wait. You just said 2 to 3 times, 200 to 300% cheaper acquisition cost. Now, again, we don't have enough time to go into this, but this is one of the problems across the board. There's been frankly, competition has skyrocketed, whether you're a software provider, you're selling a thing, you're selling services. And the way people have responded to that is by throwing crazy costs at customer acquisition. So if you're saying effective ABE can give you 2 to 300% lower acquisition costs, that's kind of a game changer for the entire market.
Right. I mean, think about it too, is when you do ABEs around focus, right? And so when we focus our marketing and our sales on the right customers, we stop all the noise, right?
Yeah.
Let's reduce that noise up front, and let's just go after our best customers, or the customers that we want to go after. So then you're filling the funnel with better leads.
Mm-hmm.
You're reducing your sales cycles because they have that alignment of, hey, sales, when I hand you this opportunity, what do you want them to look like, right? What did the company look like? What kind of conversation do you want me to have with them? What kind of engagement needs to be in place? Modern components, we can identify intent, right? And we always look at scoring models around fit, engagement, and intent kind of coming together to be a really good kind of lead score modeling. So when you bring those things together, you accelerate those sales motion as well. So if I can focus on the right people, have the right conversations, and better enable sales with the right kind of opportunities, my cost on that whole cycle is reduced. It's not just filling the funnel with cheaper leads.
Yep.
And
it's
that's
the right people, the right opportunities. And again, I love what you said. It gets rid of the noise. How many times do we see ads or get emails where we're like, I am 100% the wrong person to receive this? So this is actually amazing. We could go on for hours, honestly. I think
I didn't talk shop with you all day. I love it.
This is really, really interesting. We better with cheaper and faster opportunities. That's kind of the Shangri-La of what I think in marketing and sales we're trying to solve for. So if people want to learn more, Scott, how do they get a hold of you? How do they engage with your organization, with BCG? Is it LinkedIn? How should they reach out?
Yeah, absolutely. LinkedIn is always great. I try to be as responsive as humanly possible. So I will absolutely reach. I would always open to any kind of conversation. If you want to reach out to LinkedIn, connect with me. Love to have a conversation. Absolutely.
This honestly, I believe this article, and like I said, we're going to put it up on the screen here and make it available in the chat. But this article that Scott is a co-author on, I think is a foundational shift in the way people think about or should be thinking about marketing. I think ABE is the next generation of intelligent engagement, not just in marketing, but entire account engagement. Genuinely, Scott, thank you for your work in this. You're changing, I think, the landscape, and you're helping us. So genuinely, thank you for your work and for sharing what you've shared today.
David, absolutely. Thank you for reaching out. It was an absolute pleasure to have a conversation with you today, and look forward to the rest of the conversations throughout the summit. So I appreciate it and enjoy being part of it.
Thanks again.
Thank you.